So how exactly do you apply blush? Well, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how you apply a powder blush to your skin. When should you apply it? How should you apply it? What should you use to apply it? And also the same thing for a cream blush. So I'm going to be breaking it all down. So stay tuned if you want to know how to apply blush. Okay, so I have my base on, but I want to just quickly explain to you exactly what I'm going to be doing today. I don't have any blush on either side of my face. Now I have my foundation on, my concealer, my full base is basically done. I've set it as well with powder. The difference is on this side, I have kind of like dusted my powder on with a brush. So I've just kind of like applied my powder on like this. And then on this side, I've actually pressed it in. So I've used my powder puff and pressed my powder in. So the reason being is because I'm going to be using a different kind of like texture finish blush on either side, and I really want you guys to understand exactly how you should be applying both. I'm going to be talking through one first, and then we are going to go into detail with the other one. So the first one that I really want to focus on is powder blush, and then we're going to move over to cream blush. And it's actually pretty interesting how you need to have different techniques for both. It is very important that you apply it in the right order and also apply it with the right type of products, because it's easy to get a really patchy finish with a cream blush. So I'm going to be showing you some really clever tips to try and get the most beautiful kind of like flushed from within look as well, including getting that with a powder blush. So let's get started. Now I'm going to be working on this side for the powder blush, and I am actually going to be using a different placement for both, because I want you to see how your placement changes with blush as well. So with the powder blush, we're going to be applying it mainly along the kind of like apples of the cheeks to really make that area look a bit more full. And then on the cream side, we're going to be using it on the top part of the cheekbone to really show you how you can lift the area. So like I said, let's get started with the powder blush. Now for the powder blush, I am going to be using my Surratt blush. I've got two in here, they're so nice. You've got like a really nice hot pink and then a really nice kind of like tangerine color. I'm probably gonna use, I think, the pink, because I really want you guys to see like how pink can actually also look really good, because I'm one of those where usually I used to stay away from blush, stay away from pink, and I just feel like you can mix it up, you know. I'm going to be using the pink, and I might actually mix in a little bit of the orange with it. Now when it comes to using a powder blush, you do want to make sure that you're getting a powder blush which has good pigment but also isn't crazy pigmented, because what happens is if you go straight into that product and straight onto your skin, it can end up just looking wrong, and then it's really hard to actually blend it in. I don't know if you've ever done that, but sometimes when you've gone right in with the blush and you've just got a whole patch of it, and then, you know, the more you try and blend, the more you're actually ruining your makeup underneath. So I really wanted to kind of show you how you apply it. There is a very special way to apply it so that it doesn't actually look crazy on the skin. And this is how, as a makeup artist, I would apply it to my clients as well. The brush that I'm going to be using is the Surratt brush, and this is a really nice kind of like big brush. Now I'm going to be using different tools for both sides, and I'm going to explain why. Now sometimes I do use a smaller brush than this, but for the placement of which like how I'm applying this brush is going to work really well, because I'm going to be applying this on the apples of the cheek. So I really want a brush to be able to kind of like really sit nicely into that area. If I use a smaller brush, like something which is a lot smaller, like that kind of size, then I feel like what's happening is I'm getting that targeted application. So if I use a brush like this, I'm really getting that kind of compact application in certain areas. But this is a lot more kind of like, how can I put it? It's a bit more airbrush style. It's like very light. It just infuses the color. Like you'll get it, it disperses the color really nicely on the cheek. And that's what I was trying to say. It disperses the color really nicely on the cheeks. You want to get a brush which is pretty soft as well. Now you can either go for this brush or you can go for different brands. It doesn't have to be this brand brush, but hopefully this shows you the kind of like shape of it. But what I will tell you is you could go and get a shape like this, but it could mean that it's not as soft, it's not as kind of like airy, it's not as kind of dispersed. Like some brushes this big might be quite compact, which means that when you actually apply the product, it's really going to give you a lot like all in one place. It's not going to disperse the product as nicely. So hopefully this goes to show, like how I'm explaining this will help your application. This will really help how your blush looks. So it isn't just about where you apply it, it is also about the tools that you use as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use both of these colors I've decided. I'm just going to mix them together because I want you to see like how you don't have to just go for one blush. So we're going to kind of like go into both these blushes. And you get a really nice finish on the skin as well with this. I want to really make sure I've got both colors on the brush. And I can actually see on one side I've got like a bit more pink and on the other side I've got more of the tangerine color. Now, I would not go straight in with this because that's going to be way too much. So we're going to go onto a tissue. So if I get a tissue here, I just want to show you exactly how I would actually just kind of like take the product off. Now this is how much I would take off. I would go in and just kind of go, can you see how I'm just moving the brush around? Now you might not be able to see too much color coming off, but if I was to put that on my skin, it would be a lot of color. So now this is ready to go on the skin, and this is where I'm gonna smile a little bit, and although it may seem old school, it is actually a great way to apply blush. I'm gonna go like this and just not fully smile because I don't want like huge, you know, cheeks. I'm just going to kind of like apply it on this area here. So this isn't necessarily applying it right there. That's going to not really the right place to apply your blush. You want to kind of like go along this area here, right? So just along this area here, this cheek area here. So you're not going as high up as the cheekbone and into the temple, but you are kind of applying it on the kind of upper part of your cheek, not so central, a bit more kind of towards this side. So what we're going to do here, press and flick. So can you see we're like going and then we're flicking, going, flicking. And because we've taken off a lot of the product beforehand, it's giving a really, really nice kind of airbrush finish to the skin. And can you see how we're getting a really nice dispersed finish? So like we actually don't have to focus on trying to blend it too much because it's actually giving a really nice, it just looks so kind of like just a veil of color on the skin, and it's already blended out perfectly. And that's why this brush, this kind of brush, is amazing for applying blush to this area. So this is great if you want slightly fuller cheeks, or if you want more of that kind of doll like just very pretty look. If you're not so concerned about lifting your face, then this is the area that I would always recommend applying your blush, because I actually personally feel like this looks a lot more healthier and it just looks nicer on the skin, and it doesn't look as, I'm not going to say unrealistic as putting it up here, but it definitely does look a bit more natural this way, and I feel like it looks prettier. So this is the area that I would always recommend applying it on if you're not so concerned about lifting. I would only ever recommend applying it the other way if you do want that lifted look. But this way I think works perfectly, and mixing your blushes together, hopefully this has actually shown you, works really, really well. I probably will go a little bit extra with this because I feel like you can't see it as much as what I could see it in real life. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit more, dust it off on the tissue, and I just want to show you that application again. So can you see I'm just flicking it, but I'm going faster. There you go. Don't apply it in the center. Like I said, you want to keep it along this area here. And I don't know if you actually saw the old J-Lo movie Made in Manhattan, but there was this scene where she was wearing this gown where she got dressed up and she had the most beautiful kind of like tangerine cheeks. And I feel like that this is that area. This is where she, like Scott Barnes had applied it on her. This is the kind of area, like if you want that really fresh, pretty look, this is where I would say apply it, because I just feel like it looks so nice. And it isn't going to make your cheeks look so full that it's like drastically different. But again, like I said, it just gives a more healthy finish to the skin. So if you already have quite a kind of contoured or structured, defined, shaped face, this is going to be amazing for you because it's just going to add that slight fullness that you need. And yeah, hopefully you've seen how amazing this brush is. I love this brush for blush. So you can see that we've got blush on this side and it's really nice and healthy looking. We're going to move on and start applying the cream blush. I'm going to be using the Huda Beauty Blush Filter in Watermelon Pop. This is a good blush. I really do like this blush, and I'm not going to be applying it directly on the skin. Let me just go through how your skin needs to be and where you, like at what point you apply this. When you're using cream blush, you want to make sure you don't apply this on top of powder, but there is one time that you can apply it on top of powder, and I'll explain that shortly. So ultimately, the time that you can apply this is before you've applied your powder. That's probably the best time to apply it. So when you've done your foundation, done your concealer, done all the creamy stuff on your skin, and then before you set everything with your powder, you would then go in with your cream blush, and then you can apply your powder on top just to set everything in. But that doesn't always work for everyone, because as much as that may work when you want that really nice matte finish and you want your makeup to last all day, which everyone by now should know that the only way to make that happen is by pressing the powder into the skin. Some people will want a more kind of fresh, slightly dewy, healthy finish to the skin. So they don't want that matte kind of finish initially. This is where I would say you can apply after powder, but it's a very certain amount of powder, or a very kind of certain amount of time after applying your powder. So I've had this on for at least an hour, right? I'm not saying that that's how long you have to wait, but I would say that you've got to wait at least until the powder kind of like really kind of like settles down and your natural oil start to come through. So however long that takes you, that's at what point you can apply after powder. But that's because I've pressed the powder into the skin, right? If you have dusted your powder over the skin with a brush after applying your foundation or concealer, and you've done a very light dusting, so not everyone presses powder into the skin, a lot of people just dust some powder on top and they're happy with that. You can still wait a few minutes and then go in with your blush. Like, it really does depend how much powder you've used. If you haven't used a lot of powder where it's actually super mattified the skin, then you can go ahead and use your liquid blush. So you can still apply it after your powder. So that's where I would say you can. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply this to the back of my hand. It's so important that you do it this way if you want this kind of like really nice finish to the skin and you want it to be easy to kind of apply as well. So I'm just applying a decent amount to the back of my hand. And this is where I'm going to take a beauty blender. I use a dry beauty blender. You can use a damp one if you want, by the way. It actually gives a really nice soft finish, but I'm happy with the dry beauty blender. So what I do is I use this for liquid blush. Now I've got all this product on the back of my hand. Now what I want to do is I want to evenly buff this into the sponge first. I really want to make sure I've buffed it into the sponge, so that if I was to press on anything now, I'm not getting extra kind of dollops of product. It's very even. So now that we've done that, I'm going to now press this here. But what I want to do is I don't want to apply it in the same area here. I want to go a little bit higher so that we can lift the area. So I'm going to go along the like peak of the cheekbone here. And you're going to see the difference compared to the other side of applying it in this area. I'm not focusing on that middle cheek area where I applied it here. I'm really focusing on this upper kind of part of the skin here. Now, can you see by pressing it, what we're doing is we're getting a really nice even finish. We don't have that kind of obvious color. I would always recommend pressing it into the brush, like sponge, before you go into the face, because you're going to get a really nice even airbrush finish to the skin. Okay, completely different application style, but hopefully you can see how that does actually lift the area. You can go in and apply more if you want. So I've just got a little bit more on the sponge. I'm just applying more so that you guys can see it, because I always am conscious that you guys can see less through camera. Okay, so we've applied the product there. Now I really want to like explain to you the placement and like the difference it makes and how this looks so different too. So you can probably tell this is matte. We've got that nice finish there. It looks very healthy. I would say if you're using powder blush, I would always recommend applying it in this area here, because what that does is, because you've got all that kind of like everything's looking so matte, what this does, it gives that healthy finish to the skin. It just gives that healthy, like push in the healthy direction, whereas you can get that healthy look very easily with a cream blush because of the finish of it, because it doesn't look so matte. So I would always recommend applying it there with a powder blush, because I feel like it also helps to disguise any flaws. So because it's matte, you're not getting that obvious kind of like, okay, I can see she's got acne scarring there, or she's got uneven skin tone. This is a really good trick to getting the healthy finish, but also disguising all the flaws that you might not be comfortable showing. This here is perfect for if you have kind of texture over the skin, like along the cheekbones, because maybe you don't feel as comfortable kind of like having it along this area here because you've got so much texture. So maybe applying it up here, like you normally have less texture along this area, it works really well for you, because that's the only issue I used to struggle with beforehand when I was kind of like getting more into blush for myself, is that where do I apply it where I feel like it looks healthy but also isn't going to show all my uneven, like just all my skin texture. So I feel like that worked well for me, but then I realized over time that I can apply it here, but I'll just use a powder so that it keeps it matte looking and keeps it looking smooth and just doesn't look so obvious when it comes to my acne scarring. So I feel like that works well for that. But the ultimate thing you can really see here is how this does lift your face, but like I said, that's all it does. In my opinion, that is all it does. I feel like this is way nicer because it's softer. It's not as kind of like, okay, look what I'm trying to do here, you know? It's just a really pretty finish to the skin. And again, you can use a liquid cream blush here if you wanted to, but again, it really depends on how kind of like comfortable you are with showing some texture there. But I personally feel like adding a powder one here works better for this placement. But this placement here, I like it. I'm totally up for the whole lifting thing, but this is where you would apply it if you want that lifted finish. But honestly, I feel like if you want to go for something which is classic, I'd say this is the way to go. I just feel like that looks prettier. But this is how you would apply it if you are using a cream blush. Again, you can swap the placements over if you want, but this is the exact kind of like positioning of it where if you want that lifted finish. But applying it with a sponge and buffing it into the sponge before you like buff it into the actual skin makes such a big difference. A lot of the time you see a lot of people, to be honest, including myself sometimes, because I'm used to it so I know what I need to do, but I will use a kind of like apply the product directly on the skin and then blend from there. And I just realized over time that I'm doing it that way because I'm so used to it. But I want to kind of like, this whole channel has always been about educational beauty and really teaching you guys easy ways to do things, but also really effective kind of ways that give you the best possible results so that you can be your own pro. And I feel like I realized that I really still have a lot more to break down for you guys. So as much as I give you everything that I know, there is so much more that you guys are going to learn, because there are other things that I can also break down to make it a lot easier for you too. And this was one of them, like really explaining to you how you can blend things into the skin, you know, to give that really nice perfect blend that might be actually easier for you than applying it directly onto the skin. That always requires a little bit of extra blending, which in turn requires extra knowledge and, you know, just having the technique right when it comes to blending. So yeah, hopefully that has shown you how to apply powder blush and cream blush, and you also now have learned what the different kind of placements can do for you, and you probably have your own preference on what you think looks better. What one do you think actually looks better, this side or this side? Let me know in the comments box below. I'll be interested to see what your opinion is of that. But everything that I have used is in the description box below. You just need to head on over, click on the link, and it will take you straight to it. Any questions, let me know. Any ideas of what you guys want me to kind of record next, let me know in the comments. Don't forget that I do have an online publication called the Beauty Breakfast Club, and it's a community that we've created there, which is so nice. A lot of you guys have actually come over there too, which is great, and I speak to you guys there. But it's basically an online publication that I have which covers different topics: beauty, health, self, just trending topics like products that I recommend, why, and there are newsletters that I write personally, so articles that go up 3 times a week. Now there are 2 different subscription types for this. So you have one which is free, which basically gives you access to 2 newsletters a week. And then the other one is the paid subscription, which is only costing you the equivalent of getting 1 coffee a month. That's it. And it's just your way of being able to support me as well, because everything I do on YouTube is free for you guys and I don't hold back with any information. But you do get an extra newsletter, so you get 3 newsletters a week, so you get access to the entire site, which also means we get a chat room. So me, you, and all the other paid subscribers, we get to chat in there, and it's like a proper, it's like having WhatsApp. It's like we're proper, like it's like that. And we, you know, some of the paid subscribers have questions, and I can answer them there for you. So you might want to head on over and head for the paid version, because that will be highly appreciated. And I have another YouTube channel, which is a mix of vlogs and my podcast, which is with my husband. So the podcast is Minding Our Business. You can find that on my NINAUBHI Vlogs channel. And that is basically me and my husband sitting, and honestly, we just show you what we're really like. Like we just sit and have a chat, and we're talking about all different things, you name it. We're talking about everything, but it's very raw, very relatable. So it is us in our natural form. So you'll see a lot of jokes, banter between us, also a bit of bickering sometimes, because that's life basically. So we just wanted to keep it really real and relatable, and hopefully you guys will also show us some support over there too. It seems to be kicking off, like as in people are really liking the podcast, which I am so happy to hear about. But yeah, would love to see you guys over there too. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so that you never miss any of my future videos. Until the next video, take care, and I'll see you soon.